Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is very exciting and a long time in the making. This is my DIY PIKLER triangle. I am really excited about this. Gracie loves it and I wish that I would have made one sooner for her. But before we get into it, please like and subscribe. And if you're interested in any other DIYs, I'll link a couple up here. But let's go ahead and get building. Okay, so for materials, we have our plywood for our slide and corners, as well as our 48 by 1 inch dowels, and then our 12-foot 1x4 pine. Okay, so starting out, I'm going to be just rolling my dowels to see how straight they are, and just knowing which end I'm going to want to cut off. This is important just so that they're straight. I'm just going to go ahead and set up this block to serve as a measurement. So I got it so that when I butt up the end of my dowel, it will make my dowel 30 inches. And this in the long run will make my measurements better. I'm just going to clean up this end. It's nice and square. I'm going to slide it down where we have our measurement set up for it to be 30 inches. And chop it off here. Next, I'm just going to round what will be the tops of our side pieces. I haven't cut them yet, but I'm just using this protractor to make a nice half circle that I can then cut off. So we have 2 pieces of wood, and we're actually going to cut one of our 32-inch pieces and one of our 36-inch on each piece, instead of splitting them in half and doing them on one board, so that we leave leeway on the end for trimming. So we'll cut those, and we'll actually cut both boards at the same time so that it's exactly the same. So I'm using a jigsaw, which I'm very lucky, and I have access to a full shop with lots of fancy tools, which will obviously make this job a lot easier, but a lot of this can be done with just tools that you may have. You could use a handsaw or hand sanding, anything like that, to make this work, and just a drill. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this jigsaw. I'm gonna start by just notching in the center here, and then I will follow this curve that we drew with the compass on the wood, and then I will finish it by sanding. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. This other side, I want to tell you guys why I'm leaving a little bit of space between where I'm cutting and the line, and that's just to allow me a little bit of wood to sand away to make it smooth. So I'm doing about a 1/16 of an inch away from that line that we've drawn. Alright, so now I'm just going to be sanding. I'm going to follow along my line, keeping the board flat and straight, and continuously keeping it on the sander so that we don't get any weird spots, and then just keep doing this until it's smooth and straight. For this, we're starting with our 90°, which is what our normal board is, and then we're changing this when we create this design so that it's not rounded at the bottom, because that just seems unsafe. So then we're gonna switch it to 120, too far, which adds and makes the 30° angle, which is what our PIKLER triangle is. So then that gives us our line for where we'll cut this off so that it will be perfect onto the ground, flush with the ground. And then we took this dowel just to get our curve of our board correct. Alright, so I set my saw to 30°, and now I'm just going to chop it off, and then I will sand to round my corners. So I chose to make my angled pieces just because I thought that it would be more conducive for climbing and safety, and this is how they turned out after cutting them and sanding them. So we're lining up our tape measure in the center of our board, and then we're going to start at 4, and then after 4 we'll go, it's fine, we'll go every 5 inches, so then we'll be at 9, and then we'll be at 14, and then 19, 24, 29, and then 34. Okay, so this guy's set to halfway of the board, and so this is going to show me exactly where my halfway mark is. And I'm just going to flip it. It's pretty close. Obviously, every board is slightly different, but it's pretty much the same. So then I will just carry this line across. And that gives me a nice place to drill, so I'm just going to do that the rest of the way up. Now that I have both my long pieces and my short pieces marked, if you do decide to do the angled bottom, it does matter which side of the board, so they need to be opposites so that they mirror one another. So double check that before you do your marking so that you don't drill incorrectly. But these are ready to go. Remember, I started at 4 on all of them, and then I just did 5 inches up. So these have 7 and these have 6. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drill our holes for our wooden dowel. So this is a 1-inch Forstner bit that I already attached to the drill press. I'm going to go ahead and align it with the mark that we created. So I'm looking, and then you can kind of press it in so that you have your spot ready for it. Now I'm going to go ahead and drill it. All right, so now that I have done that, I'm going to go ahead and repeat that for all of these holes on every single one of my boards. All right, so now that I went ahead and drilled my holes, obviously they don't go through, and we will be able to just put our rungs in them, and it should fit nicely. I chose to plane the edges just so they're not harsh, but that's totally optional. We used a 1/4 round router bit with a bearing on the top. Okay, so to find your 30-degree angles for your outside triangles, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a miter gauge and you're gonna find 60 degrees. We did this because that's 30 degrees less than 90, so then that makes this line right here 30 degrees, so you mark that and then extend it with a straight edge. Then I just flipped it to the other side and I will do the same thing. You can go ahead and use your legs to make the rounded edges of your triangle and just trace around the outside of them. Once you have your triangle drawn out with your rounded edges, you can go ahead and cut it. Start by cutting these lines either with your table saw, jigsaw, bandsaw, whatever you have, and then you can go ahead and round your corners like we have with all of our others, and then sand it to finish. Once you have your first one cut out, you can go ahead and just trace it so that they're exactly the same. All right, so here is our finished cutting stack of materials, and now we're ready to start putting this baby together. This one has already been glued, and we're going to go ahead and glue the larger side. All right, so we're ready to start gluing. You're going to need some clamps as long as they're large enough to go over the whole side. They will work just fine with your dowels in them. So let's go ahead and glue. You're going to need some wood glue. This is what I'm using. And I'm going to go ahead and coat the inner part of all of these holes, and then I'm going to attach all my dowels and stick them in there nice and firm, and then I'll do the same with the other side and just place it on top, and then we'll go ahead and clamp them. So this is what your hole should look like with your glue in it. There should be enough glue in there that whenever you put your dowels in and then clamp it, that there should be glue oozing out that you will want to immediately wipe up because you don't want to have to sand again. So after gluing, take some sort of straight edge 90-degree angle that you can make sure that your rungs are fairly even so that they will look the best they can look. So we're prepping to glue. We decided to glue our top triangle on. So we just drew a guideline once laying it up here and making sure it was even. And then we're going to just evenly spread our glue on here, and then we will clamp it together. Okay, so now it's time to drill our holes that then will connect onto the other half that we glued. So this board is 3 1/2, so we're going to be doing 1 3/4 from the side, and then 1 3/4 from the top, and then that's where we'll be drilling our hole. Now that we have our pilot holes drilled through our first, we're going to go ahead and punch it through all the way. This is the connecting cap that we're using. So we're using this guy and this guy. So after we finally drilled our holes, we just pushed these through using a rubber mallet, and then we are about to try screwing these guys in to connect them. And put this in, and it is connected, but this is obviously too long, so we're going to go ahead. We measured this. This is 3/8, so we're going to remove 3/8 from these guys, and that will give us a perfectly flush connection. We have this lined up, and then we're gonna measure about 3/8.
Yep.
And then we'll use this metal saw to just trim it off. Have it all connected, and then we're gonna go ahead and drill a hole through this whole thing that we will put our peg through, and then we'll drill an additional one more in the center so we can have a more intense angle if we choose. All right, so we have our holes for our pegs drilled and on both sides, and we're ready to try it out. All right, so I cut 2-inch wooden dowels to just use as a peg for easy taking down and putting up our PIKLER, and I just rounded them crudely on the sander, and then I'm gonna drill a hole so that I can put some cute leather to make a tab for it. All right, so we drilled that hole, and now I'll be able to just thread some faux leather through there to make it cute and easier to pull out. Here is where we're at. We added the slide. I'll put the information on that next, but we're ready to start staining. With pine, you're gonna wanna use a pre-stain just so that your stain goes on more even. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and then I'll be ready to use my stain plus poly and finish her up. All taken apart with the tarp down and ready to stain. Okay, so it's officially many days later. I took a break from this whole process. I'm really disappointed in how my stain turned out. I 100% don't recommend a poly, like 2-in-1 stain. Definitely just stain and then use a polyurethane on top. I think that that is going to be a lot better option, but I think I am getting close at this point. Okay, so here's a rundown of what happened with my staining process. So I chose the poly plus stain, and that was a very big mistake. I'd only ever used that once before on our kitchen table, and it worked great. But because of the way that this sits up, it was not good. And so it was also a lot darker than I wanted. But what we went ahead and did, well, my dad did, he helped me a lot. We ended up having to sand, and then we ended up using a regular stain to kind of cover up, and it's more kind of a rusticy look now. And then we had to do 3 coats of poly, so it definitely took way longer than it needed to, and I 100% just recommend using a regular stain and polyurethane on top to seal it and to make it more resistant to scratches, and also to make it a little smoother for if you do the slide. So yeah, but this is the finished product. My daughter absolutely loves it, and I 100% recommend doing something like this for your kiddos. Okay, so for a quick rundown on how we made this optional slide. So for the base of the slide, it is a 4-foot by 15 inches, and it's 3/8 of an inch thick piece of plywood. And then we went ahead and we took the side pieces, which is completely optional as well. And those are 2.5 inches by 3/4, and then they're about 45 inches long. And this was totally just our idea of like making it a little bit more safe and her not falling off is easy. We used a dado blade to make a notch throughout our whole side, and then we slid it onto the slide. And then for these hook pieces, these are 2 inches by 4 inches, and then they're about 3/8 of an inch thick, just like most of the rest of the boards. And I just cut out little notches that would fit around our dowels and the rungs, just to make it easier to get it on and off. But once again, this was just totally our design, and we decided to run with it, and this is a totally optional piece. It's not actually part of the PIKLER triangle. All right, guys, so that is the end. As you can see, this was quite the journey. This was quite an adventure. It took me much longer than I thought it was going to be because of my mistake with the stain. So learn from my mistakes, but other than that, this was a fairly easy project, and you really could do it with a bunch of different type of tools to make it work for you and what you have available to you. It's also a great way for kids to just learn and discover and work on their fine motor skills, and I am just very happy with how it turned out. So yeah, if you made this far, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.